Well, do people say you look like Saint Tone all the time? He's going to say no. Yeah.
That's the look.
Well, we got different angles. I got a close-up on you here. I got this. We got
So these two cameras are waist up.
Oh, okay.
So these are like closer in.
Yeah, good.
And then that will just cut in periodically.
I'm going to just place this here. You got some water there. And that is
Good.
Got you on each side. Got you on this side too.
Oh, so.
Voila.
Jane, whenever you're ready, and we can edit anything you want. And we're looking at a 40-minute.
You want to be the timekeeper?
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now.
What
So
time does your
25
class start?
Not till noon, so I'm
Okay,
5 minutes away.
Perfect.
I have plenty of time to cover you guys.
Okay.
Covered the dog here. We have boxer dogs, and 5 one's arrested, these 3 tiny. They'll never get bigger because you can starve in the street. But the main one, which was kind of champion, scored this dog here, so 5 years old, quit eating, and now we've been going through. We just did 4 grand tests, over 4,000 tests. Not even on solving it, and we got a report back. We spent another $500 last week, and we got a report back. Well, it's inconclusive.
Oh my gosh.
I said, fuck.
Yeah.
How can you?
How can that be?
How can we've just spent over $4,000
Yes.
on testing, and all we're being told is it may be this and it may be that,
So
and it
frustrating.
could lead. And at one point, we were certain that anyway. So we're taking care of a 5-year-old. When they don't, they usually do it twice as long or more. And it's just family. So I'm
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know what? We just experienced that with our
switched to
cat.
this
We spent
cat,
$500 on her because she was limping. And checked,
All
looked,
the x-rays,
nothing. Took a
nothing.
second x-ray. It's like, again, $500 later, like, we don't know what's wrong with her.
Here,
And
give
then
her
2 days
morphine.
later, she's walking. I was like, oh,
But
okay.
he's lost 11 pounds and he's skinny as can be.
Wow.
And
Sounds
but
bad.
he's eating sporadically, and my wife is now going to buy $100 worth of food a week now that's specially cooked.
Right.
That's especially for cancer. That's high protein.
Yeah.
And even that he's not eating. Maybe once a day. Anyway, so we're going. So I'm covered with dog hair.
Let me
Well,
just
I
tell you,
can't see it, so
you don't
you
need
You
to
won't
won't see it. You won't
That camera
see it.
doesn't
I
see
know
it.
you won't see it.
we'll be good.
Believe me, I'm not paying it all.
So what I'm going
all
to
right,
do, I'm not
So do the
going
introduction?
to, I'm not going to announce the name of the show.
Sure, I know. We mentioned
What I'm
that.
going to
yeah.
do is say, I'm Janie Beauclair, this is Tony St. Tone, and we are here with the magnificent Mr. Kincaid. Okay, and
I
then
just have to remember to sit up straight. My wife would be.
I'll do this.
I mean,
Like, ha ha ha.
Let me
and
just double check that you are still within. Yeah, you're good no matter what. If you have
yeah,
flavor.
I'll just remember to sit up.
And everything's on, that one's on too.
Yeah,
No,
we're
left.
otherwise, my wife would be looking at it saying, "Oh."
yeah, we're good.
Well, my Pilates instructor says to me, "Old, young."
Oh, wow,
That's
okay.
really
That's a
good.
really good way to
Isn't
think
that
about
a really
it, isn't
good
it?
thing? Yeah, because
Wow.
you have a tendency, I mean, the bad back, and you have a tendency.
Yeah.
I have a lower bad back too, so I know I always
With
lean.
Pilates, by the way, I don't have any trouble with it.
Wow, okay. It's worth
Anyway,
checking into.
all right, we're ready.
Here we go.
Okay, so I am Janie Beauclair. We're here with Tony St. Tone, and we are just honored today to have the fabulous Ken Cragen visiting us.
It's my honor.
How
It's a
are you,
pleasure.
my dear?
Terrific, absolutely great.
It is
Enjoying every minute of
such
life.
a pleasure, and I'm really happy you're enjoying every minute of life, because that's one of our mottos is if you're going to go all the way.
Yeah,
No sense having a little fun, have all the fun in the world you can have.
I love that because people say to me, so, what do you do? I say, I do anything that I have fun doing.
Right?
I'm not limited. It could be in any area.
Right.
Any area.
Yeah.
As long as I'm enjoying it. I try to teach that. I teach at UCLA,
Mhm.
and I tell my students right away in the beginning, your career is not your life. Your career is one of the tools you use for the best life possible. So
I like
let's
that.
find a career for you that's fun, fulfilling, that you're passionate about, that you can really enjoy, and then we'll design that. We'll find a career that services your life, and then I'll show you how to be successful in that career. And for me, that's what I've done with my own life.
What a beautiful thought. You think about how many people are in careers that they dread going to work every day, they hate life while they're there, or wherever the there is, whatever it is they're doing, and the thought pattern of design a career around the life you want to live.
Exactly.
It's a
Design a career that
beautiful
serves
angle.
your life. I do worry though, because I teach at UCLA in the music school, but a lot of my students are from all over the campus.
Okay.
And some of them are pre-med and they're going to be doctors, and I get these notes at the end of the quarter when I finish teaching, saying, I came in here to be pre-med, but I've decided no, I'm going to follow my music, and I'm waiting for parents with pitchforks to show me my
I know.
Isn't it guitar and feather use.
Isn't it great that they actually realize it there and then, as opposed to getting into med school and becoming a doctor and going, I don't really like taking care of sick people. I'd rather be playing music.
It's just not the music career. It's whatever career serves
Exactly.
the life.
Exactly.
And I get students from all over the campus, but I'm so thrilled that I used to teach in extension. I taught for 8 years in extension at UCLA. I've been teaching 3 years now in the music school in undergraduate, and I am so glad to get them as undergraduates, because that's when they need to examine the direction
where they're at.
Otherwise, they just get in this career and follow it, and they could be miserable their whole life.
Exactly.
At least not as, maybe if not miserable, at least not as enjoying their life as much as they should.
Well, and a lot of people are choosing their careers based on what their family thinks they should do.
Try it.
My parents want me to be a doctor. My parents want me to be a lawyer. My parents want me to be. It's like, but what do you want to be?
Well, UCLA is probably almost 50% Asian, and there is a huge thing, and nothing, I mean, it just happens to be a fact that Asian parents really push their kids into being those kind of set careers.
Lawyers, doctors.
I mean, I had a girl come up in class, and she was a world-class pianist. She's won awards all over the world, but she was in physics of some kind, right? And I have kids write on the board the things that they're most fulfilling and passionate about. There was nothing in there about the course she was taking. Nothing. Nothing about the physics. It was all about the music. Now I wonder what she's going to end up doing.
Well, and unfortunately, music's been a really tough career for people to have. And there's so few that make it in that world that I'm sure it's tough for parents to go, yes, I want you to be in the music world.
Well, the big thing I try to tell them is keep, even if you're not doing that as a full-time profession, don't abandon it. If you enjoy it,
keep it
make
as your
it
hobby
a big
or
part
something.
of your life in some way. And in this particular girl's case, when she came to my class, we started looking as a class at were there some ways that she could be doing things that contributed to music in the science area. Could she be inventing or studying or doing things that would enhance musical performance?
Well, listening to the vibrations of music and how that
Same
enhances and changes your body or whatever, and talk about the physics of that. So, but I think it's very important that people follow their passion. And if that passion is there, it might not fulfill you monetarily, but it fills your soul. So like you said, as long as you keep it in there somewhere to keep you going.
I have these incredible guests, Quincy Jones, Richie, Foster, they come every week.
These students must be falling out of their chair
well,
when people walk into your classroom.
Who comes to my class.
We're going to have to stop by.
Yeah, you should. And every one of them, the same word comes up, and you just use the passion.
Passion.
What's your passion? Follow your passion.
Yeah.
Lionel, though, had a great line. I love Lionel. He said, as soon as they start calling you crazy, that's when you know you're going to be tremendously successful doing something special.
That's awesome.
I love that. I love that.
That's the kind of thing, because you know why? Because now you're off the grid and you're not doing it normal anymore.
That's right.
So everyone goes, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing that. I left Connecticut to move to Florida to be a full-time musician, and everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, are you crazy? You don't even have shows there yet. I said, that's what I'm going to do. And sure enough, I did it. But no one was ready to leave their nest, and they were going, that doesn't make sense. I go, I know, because it's not your typical way of doing things.
But you had to have that passion.
1,000%.
Because I'm sure you ran into all kinds of obstacles.
And the obstacles I overcame every single one. But exactly, I had to have that passion. Let me tell you also that everyone that told me all the reasons why I shouldn't, I blocked them out. I just kept going, nope, I'm going to be a full-time musician. They're like, yeah, but you don't. I'm like, nope. And I would just constantly cut them off even before they started, because I couldn't allow them to plant that seed in me. Because then that's that seed of doubt, and that can quickly take over. And I couldn't allow their fear to intrude on my passion, because they weren't comfortable with it. They're like, I could never do that. And I go, no, that's you. I'm me.
I had one of the guests in my class was Snoop Dogg's producer, Terrence Martin.
Yeah.
And Terrence Martin, he said, we were talking about failure and learning from failure. He said, no, failure is not even a word in my vocabulary. It's not part of my life in any way. He said, the guys I grew up with are either in jail or dead.
Yeah.
He said, I'm a success every morning just when I get up.
Just for being alive.
Yeah.
He said,
That's
Yeah.
it. That's
he says, there's no failure in my life.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was an amazing thing.
It's extremely powerful.
So you've been really successful at a bunch of different really cool events that you've either created or been a significant part of. Some of the things you've done are the We Are the World, Hands Across America. You did parts of Live Aid. You've done some really phenomenal things that have resulted in great benefit to humanity. How did you get involved in that realm? What inspired you there?
When I look back, a couple of things. First, my parents were two of the most giving people ever, and my mother was so much driven to help other people that I remember actually getting her. She started crying one time when I sort of criticized her for the fact that she had to spend some time on herself, not all her time on everybody else. And she actually, it bothered her because her whole life was devoted to helping others. And so I think that's original inspiration.
Sure.
I think second to that, after many years of being very successful in the business side of it, I started managing Harry Chapin. And a lot of people won't know or remember Harry Chapin, except maybe from Cats in the Cradle and some of his other big hits. But Harry Chapin was the most prominent, most active humanitarian in the entertainment business in the late 1970s until he was unfortunately killed in 1981 in a car accident.
Right.
And he devoted most of his year to doing free shows, to doing all kinds of stuff in which he raised money for charity. He politicked. He got President Carter to create a committee on poverty in America. He did all kinds of stuff like that. He was really the champion of that. And Harry so was a tremendous inspiration. He showed me what was going on, things that I didn't realize. I mean, the number of people that...
He was definitely involved in what was currently happening at that time.
Yeah, you had an experience, right? You got to see it.
He was very inspirational for me as well, because at the time when I got to stay with him and hang out with him, we were doing food drives. We were collecting cans of food, and everybody who came to the concert in Sarasota, Florida, had to bring a can of food, and we ended up with thousands of pounds of food that we gave to the local shelter.
You know what? This probably was at the time I was managing.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because I created that very same thing for Kenny Rogers.
Oh, did you?
And we did it
Really?
on an even bigger scale, because Harry was drawing a few thousand, and Kenny was drawing 10 to 20,000.
Right.
And we would get a local car dealer to put a truck outside, or a bunch of trucks, pickup trucks, so they could show off their cars, but then you would put the food in the
Fill
beds
up
of
the
the car,
pickups.
fill up the pickups, and we
Smart.
drive to the chalet and stuff. But yeah, Harry was tremendously an inspiration for me. And it was so interesting too, because when I did We Are the World 3-4 years after Harry had passed away, I always credited Harry as being the inspiration. But I had a very, very interesting experience. I was in New York. I had just come from Life magazine, where they were doing a big spread and a cover on the recording of We Are the World. And I was in a car being driven to whatever the next appointment was, and literally felt physically like Harry had crawled up inside of me and was now orchestrating everything. I'm not that religious. I'm not that, out
But
there
you
in
probably
terms of my
did.
beliefs. I'm very scientific. I have a, background in astronomy and stuff like that. I mean, I'm like into science. And yet, all of a sudden, there was Harry inside me. And, and that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
I actually felt physically he went, and there he was.
Sure.
And he took over.
And he took over.
Yeah.
And he always took over.
How do you
right?
do?
Well, we did pretty dang well.
That's perfect.
That project, But in a way, I'm one of these people who believes everything happens in life happens for a good reason. And in some ways, Harry's death opened the door for others to jump in on it. Bruce Springsteen came in and became very big in this area, and still to this day does in the areas of hunger and homelessness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Still very active. And he at Harry's memorial, he told the story of hiding from Harry in the recording studio because Harry would bug him so much about getting involved that when he'd see Harry, they were recording in the same building, And when he'd see Harry coming, he'd go and hide, you know.
Right.
But he picked it up and did
But
it.
look what happened.
Kenny Rogers, Kenny Rogers, when Harry was killed, Kenny Rogers picked up the torch and carried it forward, contributed $1 million to the Hunger Awards for media, which
Wow.
we gave at the United Nations every year.
Wow.
You know, all sorts of stuff happened as a result of Harry's tragic death. So many things we were able to pull off and do that may or may not have been possible with Harry.
Yeah.
Harry was very similar in some respects to Bob Geldof, who really started the whole recording with major stars.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Live Aid.
Yeah, with, you know,
Do they know it's Christmas?
well, do they know it's Christmas, which inspired us. to do
Right.
it. And you know, Geldof would just buttonhole people. They'd run and hide from him, much like they did from Harry, because he was on a mission, much
Yes.
like Harry was. And in a way, you need that. But in another way, when we got to 1984 and 85, when we recorded We Are the World, you also needed, it was a little different time. And you needed people to want to come in and want to be a part of it, and cajoling them and such wasn't quite the way we did it.
Yeah.
But you know, we talk about Geldof. Geldof was the inspiration, no question, because 2 days before Christmas, Harry Belafonte calls me and he says, you know, we got to do a concert. He said Geldof had this concert, raised almost $10 million. Now we do They Know It's Christmas in England, but they didn't use very many African Americans or African English or whatever they were at that point.
Right.
There were very few black acts involved. He said, we need to get, you manage, I managed Lionel Richie at that point.
Right.
I was close with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. He said, we got to pull all those people together. I said, well, let's not limit it just to the black artists. Let's make it everybody. And I just started from the top of the record chart. I said, we don't need to do a concert. I tried to put a concert on for a year before with my love for Hunger. I said, let's take his example. Let's just do a bigger and better job. And so I just started, you know, but Belafonte called me on 2 days before Christmas. I drove to Lionel Richie's house. On the way, I called Kenny Rogers. He said, I'm in. I called a couple of my other clients, Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, and Kim Carnes, who had #1 records at that point. They said they're in. When we got to Lionel's, I said, will you write the song? Let's call Stevie Wonder, because I thought that I always wanted Lionel and Stevie. I thought they would be a great writing couple.
Right, sure.
I can imagine.
So, but Lionel tried to get a hold of Stevie. This is the wild part. Lionel tried to get a hold of Stevie all night and couldn't get him. And talk about, I always feel blessed projects. Things just happen, right?
Absolutely.
The next morning, Brenda Ritchie, Lionel's wife at the time, goes, it's the day before Christmas, she's buying last minute Christmas gifts. She goes into a jewelry store, she's shopping, and in walks Stevie Wonder. Now, whether he knew it was Brenda or not, I'm assuming somebody would have told him that it was Brenda, or whether he thought she was working there. He asked her to help him pick out jewelry for gifts.
Oh, isn't
And
that
she
amazing?
says, not until you call my husband back. He's been trying to reach you all night. So they get on the phone. Lionel's in a dentist chair. They get Lionel out of the dentist chair, and Stevie agrees to write the song with Lionel. Now, I don't know any of this is going on. I'm in the meantime on the phone to Quincy, who's getting on a plane he's getting on the Warner Brothers plane to fly for vacation in Hawaii. I said, Quincy, I need you to produce this record, and can you get Michael to sing on it?
Mhm.
He calls me back 20 minutes later. He said, Michael not only wants to sing on it, he wants to write it with Lionel and Stevie. We thought Stevie would be involved.
Yeah.
Right.
Stevie disappears. Stevie goes off to Philadelphia for a month. We never see him until we actually get him to record the demos, and that's another story. But in the meantime, now Belafonte calls me back the day after Christmas. He says,
Amazing.
What do you got?
Yeah, at this
he
point.
said, his question to me, and I love this because he said, so have you been thinking about our conversation yesterday? or a few
Are you
days
kidding?
ago?
I got it all sewn
I
up.
said, well, I've got a record being produced by Quincy Jones, written by Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, and Michael Jackson. I've got Kenny Rogers, Kim Carnes, Lindsey
Oh
Buckingham.
my God.
He goes, oh, okay, well, I'm
He goes, you work fast.
Yeah. He said,
Christmas miracles.
you know, now, by the way, the next week, nothing happened, because the week between Christmas and New
New
Year's,
Year's,
Right.
yeah.
you can't get anybody on the phone. But January 1st or 2nd, really 2nd probably, from that day forward, I had a basic goal. And it was, look at the record charts, work your way from the top of the record charts down, get 2 artists every day. Don't go to sleep at night till you have 2 artists.
Wow.
And-
Wow, so you
and
set
along-
that type of a goal for yourself to just,
every day, 2 artists. By the end of the day, I would get 2 new artists. Now, I got turned down a few times. There were a few top artists that turned me down. In Huey Lewis's case, I wanted just Huey because
You
first
didn't want the news.
I thought it was going to get.
well, again, vocals were the.
Yeah, you know, I wanted just 15 people.
I was going to ask that question if you had a number in mind.
Yeah, 15.
15.
I don't know why, but 15.
Okay.
Okay? Huey says, I'll do it, but not without the news. So if you look at the picture of We Are the World, and you look up in the upper right-hand corner, there are 3 or 4 guys standing there who you don't know who they are. That's the news.
That's the news.
And there were other situations like that. I mean, Michael at the last minute wanted all his brothers and sisters. He didn't get Janet, I don't know why, but maybe she wasn't around, but he got
Yeah.
everybody else. So there is the whole Jackson family.
So,
Not
so
very
they're
good.
singing on the choruses then, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were only on the choruses. The
Gotcha.
solos were, you know.
Right. Was there any ego, just out of curiosity, was there any ego involved when it came to who was going to take solos? Because obviously that's, you're dealing with a lot of guys that are,
Well, you're all #1 guys on the charts.
yeah, so everyone's like, I need to be the first line, you need to be the first line.
The smartest thing to do was get Quincy Jones.
Okay.
Quincy Jones was so respected. And there's a story about this, and it's kind of a classic. In that we were in Kenny Rogers' recording studio, had a recording studio here on Beverly Boulevard called Lions here. And he donated the studio, and we went in to cut the demos about a week before. They didn't finish, Michael and Lionel didn't finish writing the song until 2 days before we cut the demos, or even a day before. So we went in to cut the demos, and we had, and there was rhythm tracks and Michael and Lionel's guide vocals, which I found, by the way, a little tape of. I have a tape of the original guide vocals that Michael and Lionel did. But anyway, we're in the studio, and Stevie Wonder shows up, and he says, come on, let's write the song, and the guys have already written it. So they go to the piano, and they show him, and he makes a couple of suggestions and left. I always said, Stevie being blind couldn't see when he said that. Everybody's mouth went, everybody was like, wait a second, Stevie, we've already got it, but here it is.
Yeah.
But late that night, 3 in the morning, we're sitting around on the floor in the studio. Michael, Quincy, Lionel, myself, a fellow named Tom Baylor, who was the vocal arranger of the whole thing. And Quincy basically says, I've got to write a letter that goes out with these tapes and the sheet music. He said, first thing, we're going to print on the sheet music who sings which solo. Because if we leave it up to chance that night, they'll all fight for whatever they think is the better one.
Absolutely.
Tom Baylor had gone home with everybody's record and figured out who ought to sing what. So that was then printed on the music. I have a copy of the music framed at home, and if you look at that, there is Prince's name is on there because we thought Prince was going to show up. She Lee was his girlfriend.
Right.
She was talking to him. We all thought he was going to show up, but he didn't. But other than that, it's all basically whoever sung what. It's printed right on the
Right
music.
there, right.
And then I have it signed by all the artists, which is really nice. But in any event, then Quincy said, I'm going to write this letter that goes out with these tapes and the sheet music. And I've got to tell these people, these stars, check your ego at the door. And that became the classic phrase out of We Are the World. In fact, 10 years, 15 years later, when we had maybe it was even the 20th celebration, I gave Quincy a door with a plaque on it that said that. I actually had a big red door, framed door,
Framed door.
that I gave him as a gift with, check your ego at the door.
That's a perfect quote, because at least that way they know. Now, did everyone record at the same time, or did they all come in different times?
No, they all came in at once.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they came in
So
at
that's
once.
what's been
Yeah.
a real challenge.
And it was really, the biggest issue wasn't the stars. We were in Studio A at A&M Studios, pretty good sized studio. And then we took Studio B as just sort of a green room for the artists. But then each artist is bringing a wife or a friend or a manager
Sure, so
or
you're
an
filling
agent
up quick.
or something. So they were each allowed to bring 5 people. Where do you go? And so in the meetings with my office staff and everything, I said, look, Billy Joel is married to Christy Brinkley.
Right.
All right? Our job is to figure out how do we keep Christy Brinkley happy and she can't be in the studio because we don't have room for anything. We now have 45 artists. It's grown
Right.
and grown and grown.
Right.
We've got 45 artists. We barely have room for them in the studio. We can't have all the hangers on in the studio. It'd be chaos.
Sure.
So we got, A&M Studios has a soundstage, big soundstage, right next to Studio A. So we outfitted that. We put, couches and ping pong tables and
Things to keep them
oh
busy.
yeah, pool tables. And somebody donated all the food. Everything was donated. And then, which was quite unique for them, we put a 25-foot screen on the wall of the studio. And we took a feed from the recording studio A, so you could see everything that was going on in the studio while you were in the guest
And
room.
they felt like they were in there.
So they were there.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so, Christy Brinkley, along with Lionel's wife and my wife and everybody, and the people that were with everybody were all in there. Jane Fonda was there. There were all kinds of celebrities there as well who got to come. And so that was really kind of wow. The only problem with it, and this is the issue, I had invited Geldof. So he flew over from England to be part of the record. Well, he is the most outspoken and a little bit, a lot of four-letter words.
Brassy.
And there was a little stage that we put in there in case any of the artists wanted to go in and talk to the crowd. All of a sudden, I get pulled aside by somebody. I'm in Studio A. You got to get into the sound stage. You won't believe what's happening. I run in there. Geldof is up on the platform. He now is berating the people that are there, many of whom are the people who got to see stars in the first place, right? And Geldof is yelling at them, "You're sitting here eating while people are starving in Africa." I mean, he's criticizing. He doesn't know when he did the record in London, he went out and bought some Kentucky Fried Chicken or something and brought it back from McDonald's, for everybody.
Right.
The luxury of what was going on and the size of what we're doing has no impact on him. He's just looking at all these people having fun and having a good time,
Yeah.
and he's saying,
For this particular cause, and it's
Yeah.
like, don't you understand? It's like, yeah, but this is what brought these
well,
people here.
he chased maybe a third of the people away. And
Oh, wow.
It was really too bad. And I got in there and stopped it and tried to patch it up as best I could and everything. But it was typical of Geldof. I mean, he would do those kind of things regularly.
Yeah, he was quite known for doing that type of
Outspoken.
stuff. Yeah, and getting his
If you
word
read his
out
book,
there.
you know there's quite a background to it.
So,
So,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say, so after you recorded this and after it got launched and it became the big success that it did, what did that do for, you were raising funds?
64 million ultimately, actually more now. We still raise. Crazy thing is, to this day, we're still raising money and we're never trying. We're trying to go out of business. We've been trying for 30 years now. This year is the 30th anniversary.
And why are you trying to go out of business?
Well, simply because, we don't raise enough. I mean, maybe we raise 100,000 a year and we can give 20 grants of 5,000 or something like that out. It's okay, but it requires a lot of work. It requires executive director and a lot of other stuff. And we've always, it doesn't appear we ever will go out of business. I mean, when Michael died, we did $2 million that year just on downloads.
Wow.
And then we did some very big grants and did a lot of good work.
So these are all downloads from the song. So this is just money that's being generated from the actual song.
The song
And it's
still
30-year anniversary this year.
Yeah, this year. This past January 28th was the 30th anniversary. The record was released, I think, on March the 5th. Roughly around April 1 to 7 in there was simultaneous playing all over the world in 1985, where every radio station played the song simultaneously. Amazing thing. And then everything led to then, of course, Live Aid.
I was going to say, and that 30th anniversary is like right around now.
Well, when Geldof was at We Are the World that night, and then in the subsequent days, he pushed me about producing the U.S. version of Live Aid.
Of course he did.
At that point, who knew? I don't even know if it was called Live Aid. He won the big concert.
Yeah.
Remember, I had decided to do a record because I'd been frustrated the year before.
Trying to
do a concert,
So
right.
my idea was, Bob, I hate to say this now because it was such a success, but my idea was, great idea, Bob. That's not going to happen. But more importantly, I was so swept up in what I had. Remember, I still was running a management business with a lot of big clients. I had to management company perhaps.
You already were working
Time.
full-time
Yeah,
as it was.
and my clients weren't too happy about how much time I was spending on We Are the World as opposed, so in any event, I said, Bob, I can't do it, but I recommended Bill Graham, and I helped him get Bill. But then Bill was calling me for a few days, because Bill didn't have a great relationship with a lot of the African American artists. And Michael wouldn't work for him, Stevie wouldn't work for him, Prince wouldn't work for him, so he couldn't get these key artists to agree to go to Live Aid. So he would call me, because he had to have Lionel, and I eventually got him Lionel. It wasn't easy, but I also got him Harry Belafonte, who flew by and so on. But then, after that, there was Farm Aid.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we went into a period. On the way out to Live Aid, one of the most appropriate things was said, and it was the most amazing thing to me. Jeff Bridges, I was driving out to Live Aid to the actual concert that day with Jeff Bridges, and he said, and I'll never forget this, he said, I feel like the seeds that were planted by people like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez in the 60s, and Leigh Fallow in the me generation of the 70s and colder, have now in the 80s broken through the ground and finally blossomed and bore fruit.
Wow.
I mean, it was the
Yeah.
most perfect quote
Yeah.
of what had happened. And
Pretty true.
yeah, it really was.
Very true, yeah.
And, Dylan was part of We Are the World. Baez wasn't, and I really wanted her to be, but the problem was our whole emphasis up until the very last few days, when we added some people just to get the right kind of sound,
Yeah.
our whole emphasis was on sales. Let's get the biggest selling artists. Baez was nowhere near the charts in those days.
Right.
Neither was John Denver, who'd been a friend of mine. I represented him. So there were people that were left off simply by the fact that they weren't the hot artists at that point.
Sure.
And then at the last minute, Quincy decided he needed a few key singers, so he added James Ingram, he added Dionne Warwick, he added 2 or 3 other, tremendous vocals.
Yeah.
I was going to say, did anything get switched? Like, we were going to have so-and-so sing this line, and then we heard it, and it didn't work out as well, so we had to switch
No.
it? Because, that's a big risk to just sort of say, we've got 15 people that are going to sing lead, and we think it's all going to flow the right way, but then it's like, that didn't really work as well. Can we switch that line? I would have thought they would have sang the whole
I don't
thing.
recall that, but I do recall this. Quincy went in later, after the session, 2 weeks following, and brought Ray Charles in, he brought Stevie Wonder in, he brought to do, and he maybe even brought Springsteen in, to do specific emphasis and extra lines and extra work. And he added a lot post the major recording session. So
Right.
that when you watch it, you hear a lot of it, particularly some of Springsteen stuff and Ray Charles' stuff, and Stevie. It's all very strong stuff. But one interesting thing during the recording session, which will interest you, Bob Dylan, the solos were being done with everybody in the room, and people were coming up to the microphone, all gathered around the microphone to sing this. So we did the choruses first. So
Okay.
Some of the stars left, and the ones who were going to record solos stayed. When they got to Dylan, he got up in the microphone, and he didn't exactly freeze, but he didn't sound like Bob Dylan at all. So Lionel and Quincy cleared the studio. We all went in the control room. And now, they sat down at the piano, one at a time, Stevie Wonder, Quincy, and Lionel. And they did Bob Dylan. They mimicked what Bob Dylan sounds like.
Wow.
They said, Bob, here's what it is, here's what you do. And Bob then went to the microphone and delivered a perfect Bob Dylan. But they did it. They
so
went,
funny.
Stevie could do him perfectly.
Really?
Well, he has a certain voice, and it's
Yeah.
certain
And
texture to it, so
he
I
was
could
so
see that.
nervous doing it in front of his peers.
Sure,
He's a very
sure.
shy guy.
Well, a guy like that, especially because he doesn't have the sharpest voice. He's known
Yeah.
for his lyrics. He's not known as a vocal.
Well, then he's got a
in that
room full of
situation.
these superstars sitting there, that he considers his peers. I mean,
Sure.
a lot of good stuff came out. Billy Joel and Ray Charles ended up doing an album together.
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great album, actually. Yeah.
From-
Yeah, he played
And
on
that was as a result of that collaboration.
Yeah, I think they came
Very
out in
interesting.
'86. I have that record.
Now,
Thanks
the
for
interesting thing, you talk about in between all the We Are the World stuff
Mhm.
and Live Aid, which happened in July, In between, in fact, Live Aid, right around that, it was pretty
Yeah.
much the same. I went to Africa with the First Supplies. 26 of us went. Belafonte went. Some of the stars went, but there's not very many. Dionne Warwick wanted to go, but at the time she was chain smoking, and we were 46 hours in an airplane.
That isn't gonna happen.
I told her, "You're not going."
That's not gonna happen.
At that point. So anyway, I come back from there. I get off the plane. I'm being picked up by a volunteer at the airport. And I can remember the exact moment as we were starting to get on that walkway, the Howard walkway. He says to me, you know, it's wonderful what you're doing for Africa. We've got a lot of problems here in the U.S. What are you going to do for the United States? What are you going to do for the hungry and the homeless here? Because what had happened was the media that had never been covering that stuff. That was what Harry Chapin was fighting against.
Yeah.
The media started covering what was going on in America and discovered that there were whole parts of America, almost everywhere, where there were people that were kids going to bed hungry at night, people starving, people living
on the
homeless
streets,
on the streets. And that had never been covered. So suddenly it was out there in the media, and he said, what are you going to do for America? And somebody had suggested to me a month before, just before I left for Africa, this idea of Hands Across America. Now, what if we, and it was a publicist for We Are the World, he was thinking of a way to promote We Are the World. We'll all reach out, hold hands, and everybody will sing We Are the World. So that was his thinking, because he was working on promoting We Are the World. The minute this fellow said it to me, that idea popped back up in my head. Wait a second, we got to do Hands Across America.
Yeah.
So I immediately went to AT&T, because AT&T's theme was reach out and touch.
Touch someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
Perfect sponsor.
They spent 2 months considering it.
2 months considering it,
Yeah,
like as if
during,
it
well,
wouldn't
what
be that
happened
quick.
was, during that 2 months, the U.S. government made them divest of certain companies, because they gave them a bad time about being, you know, a monopoly.
Okay.
They fired 5,000 employees. They didn't feel that they could put the money up for Hands Across America, millions of dollars, when they had just fired.
They were in
all
trouble
those
a little bit here. Yeah.
So they, after around or beginning of August, they said, sorry, we can't do it. I thought the project was going to happen. And about a month later, mid-September, I got a call from a guy named Sergio Zima, who was the marketing director for Coca-Cola. And Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson had both the year before signed deals with PepsiCo.
Right.
Coke had tried to get it. In fact, in Lionel's case, I was in Atlanta negotiating with Coke, and my cohort, the guy that was helping with sponsorships, was in Purchase, New York, dealing with the head of Pepsi. And I was meeting with committees at Coke, and he was dealing with Roger Enrico at Pepsi. So when Sergio called me and said, why did we lose these guys to Pepsi? Tell me, what did we do wrong? It was the perfect setup. I said, what you did wrong was you go into committee and you can't make a decision. And one guy stands up and objects, and then there's months of debating. In the meantime, the president of Pepsi says, sure, let's do it.
Right.
You know, he didn't have to go.
Clear cut.
You didn't have to think about it.
So he said, what do you have now?
He goes, I'm glad you asked.
I said, well, I've been playing around with this idea called Hands Across America. I said, when is it? Next May? Oh, that's our 100th anniversary. We've got a couple of things we're doing. We need one more thing. This is perfect. How much? I said, Sergio, it's $3 to $5 million. He said, we got it. We take it. Good. Done conversation, 3 minutes.
Wow.
Hangs up. A week later, he calls me. He says, where do I send the $3 million check? I said, Sergio, it's 5. He said, you said 3. I said, no, I said 3 to 5, and it's 5. Next day, I had a $5 million check.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I meant 5:15. Did I say 5?
I thought didn't I say 7?
Did I stutter when I said that? Yeah, exactly.
We're going to take a quick commercial break for our sponsors, and we will be right back with Mr. Tony Saintone and the fabulous Mr. Ken Craig.
Perfect. We should
Okay.
cut.
Water while we do that.
Zip.
Um,
That's what I
We're
wanted.
probably way over your time, but you guys can edit it.
I can edit it down, but let's just take a quick look here. 39 minutes there, roughly.
What's your whole show length?
Show's an hour, but I mean, we can
We can do
manipulate
it in
something.
pieces and parts and
Yeah,
run it
sure.
in a few different ways and.
What I am going to do is I'm going to pause that.
Well, there's a few good Hands Across America stories, and there's
All of it is good.